fellow travelers, and welcome to the Traversing the Stars podcast. Today's special guest is Darren Keilan. You know him as a voice actor in All of Us Are Dead, now on Netflix. He now also stars in Bullet Train, coming in July. Now come join us as we go traversing the stars. Hello, Mr. Keilan, and welcome to the Traversing the Stars podcast. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure being here.
Definitely. I always start off with this question from my guest. Why did you decide to become an actor, and who were your earliest inspirations?
Yeah, so I was 10 years old when I got quote unquote discovered at a farmer's market, and I ended up auditioning for an acting school, and I just fell in love immediately from the moment I got in front of the camera. It was just fun to play and have fun. Early inspirations, there wasn't a whole lot of Asian actors when I was 10. Besides like Jackie Chan and Donnie Yen and like all those. But I really did like, the usuals like Brad Pitt, Quentin Tarantino films, just his whole writing style. That was an earlier inspiration. DiCaprio, of course, he was a big one for me. Yeah.
That's crazy. Your inspiration was Brad Pitt, and you're gonna have to get to be with Brad Pitt later in a movie, Bullet Train, which we'll get to in a little while.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
now,
that was cool.
Now, something you definitely got to explain to me, because I know the idea of being discovered to me always sounded like something that happens in a movie, but how does that actually work in real life? That means someone just approached you and said, "You're a movie star," and it happened?
So it was weird. I'm sure it's a lot different now because I don't think they do this anymore, but they had these things called talent scouts, right? And basically a acting school hires people that they feel like could see talent or people that may have an interest in acting and want to do it in the future. So basically I was just sitting at a farmer's market. My parents were in the bathroom. I was sitting there and this woman comes up to me and she's like, "Hey, where are your parents?" And it sounds really weird. Trust me, it's a really it wouldn't fly today. But I was like, "Oh, they're in the bathroom." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then my parents walk out and they're like, "Who are you?" I was like, "Oh, is this your kid?" And they're like, "Yes." I was like, "Oh, well, we think he'd be really good for this acting school." So they gave my parents the card. And from there, I just said, they asked me, they were like, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess." I was 10 years old. And from there, I went to Gary Spatz. It's a conservatory here. And out of, I don't even know how many kids, maybe 600 or so, they only picked about 60 to join the school, and I was one of the 60. So that's kind of what being discovered is you get discovered to join a school to learn how to act. Yeah. And then from there, they give you opportunities because you have audition nights and then performance nights in front of agents and all that stuff to try to see where you kind of fit in. But like I said, I was a 11-year-old Asian kid. It was a lot harder back then. Still difficult today, but it's getting better.
But that is crazy. Like I said, I think that's the most odd sales pitch is, "Where's your parents?" That's a weird way to start any sales pitch.
It was really weird. Yeah. Thinking back on it, it's like, I could have been kidnapped.
Apparently you're okay with it. You're like, "Sure, hang around." Maybe my parents will come.
Yeah, she had a very trusting vibe, which I'm sure is also a red flag, but we were in public. There was a lot of people around, so I knew nothing crazy was going to happen. And I was with family. So it was definitely an interesting day for me. And a week later I was into a school and I didn't even know,
So you've been trained to act since you were 10 years old?
I started at 10. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So 10 through 14, I did 4 years at this actor's conservatory. And then I started doing private lessons with my now manager. And from there since the pandemic, I was doing online classes at Anthony Mindel's. And now I'm doing more casting director workshops and trying to see what I can learn and how I can really improve myself.
So as a 10-year-old, what kind of education did they give you? I mean, what can you absorb as far as the craft of acting at 10 years old?
So it was more on confidence building.
Mm,
A lot of 10-year-olds, I was a really shy kid, but at the same time I was extroverted, like I could talk to
mm,
other kids. It was more just confidence building and kind of figuring out your place, I guess. Um, and at the same time, it's you learn how to access a different part of your brain because you're reading a lot, you're memorizing scripts, and it's weird because you just end up doing a lot better in school because you can memorize things a lot quicker.
mm. That's cool.
And yeah, and you just have more confidence when you talk to people in general, talk to
Mm.
teachers, all that stuff. It was a cool feeling at 10 years old starting and then going up until like eighth grade. I just felt very confident in myself and the way I talk to adults and everything else. And um, it's just that's pretty much the building blocks. They just make sure that you're comfortable with yourself and that you're not afraid to look silly in front of people or a camera. Um, so it was definitely those were like the foundation, the building blocks. You just really just get comfortable and know yourself, and whatever you do, like when you're doing a scene, you're just you in that
Mm.
situation. That's really it.
Always something I always wonder, because once again, I'm not an actor, can't act, but for those who are actors, and I guess almost any skill, I always wonder the difference or what you can learn differently from experience versus training. As you have grown, where has the line been for you? Difference between what you've learned from doing and what you've learned from being taught.
So there's a huge side to acting that people don't understand, and that's the business side. I think 90% of it is business. Like you can be the best actor in the world, but if you don't audition or go on set, you can't be comfortable on a set and you don't really know what to do.
Mm.
Um, that's my opinion. Because I know when I was younger, just learning how to act, it's like, okay, cool. I know how to act now. I can access emotions. I can do this, whatever, whatever. Um, but then when you get on an actual set, you forget everything. You just it's just gone.
Right.
And now you got to figure out, okay, there's 50 people behind the camera watching me, and I have to act.
Mm.
Crap. What do I do? Um, I think set experience is a lot. You learn a lot more on one day being on a professional set than you'll learn in a 4-year conservatory. That's for me, at least. I always
Mm.
tell my friends it's like the best way to learn if you already know how to act, because you can always take acting classes, you can always be better, but it's a lot harder to get on a set. Especially now. I don't know why it's so difficult. um, but it just is. And I think when you're on a set, you learn how everyone kind of moves, the pacing of everyone. Like it's so quick and it's chaotic, but it's organized at the same time. And you don't get that in an acting class. Most of the time, you're sitting, you're observing, your classmates act, and then when it's your turn, you get feedback, and from there, you just kind of adjust and do your thing. But when you're on a set, it's 90% waiting, and you're waiting for people to set up a shot, and then you act for 5 minutes, and then you go back to holding, and then you're waiting for like 3 hours. Um, but that's just, I don't know, it's enjoyable because it's like you're helping make magic happen.
Yeah.
And it's a long process, very long. But I think that's just it. Like set experience is more important
Mm.
because you need to know how it feels like. You need to know how they operate and how they work so that you can match that intensity. Because I know when I was a kid, I mean, I was like, I think maybe 12 or 13, I started getting a little I guess relaxed in acting class. I felt like I wasn't really being challenged anymore, so I kind of stopped trying.
Mm.
And big mistake. um, and once you start kind of letting your guard down and you book something and you're on a set, it hits you hard. because now you're like, oh, I have to get back into it.
Mm.
So, I mean, personally, I love set experience.
Yeah, I think it was great about what you were discussing is a lot of people think of acting who are not Aussie actors. They think of just the acting itself. But you mentioned two kind of like adjacent skills that are necessary. One is business sense, and two, reading and how to become a better reader. I think that's so cool that those two aspects are things that people may not think about acting, but are important skills and is a reason to pay attention and still, skill all everything else because you can't act without them.
It's hard, You can obviously this improv, and I think improv is amazing. I wish I was a lot better at it. Because it is extremely difficult to just have things pop in seconds in your head.
Yeah.
But I mean, memorizing, like, all that stuff comes with it, but script is just a guideline. The rest is up to you. And like I said, you put yourself into the character, and that's kind of what people don't realize, that acting is actually one of the most difficult jobs to do because it's something you have to constantly prove you can do. Unlike a regular job.
Well, it's kind of funny. I had an interview, I think it was 2 months ago, with a director called Andrew Hunt, or named Andrew Hunt, not called, named Andrew Hunt. And we're talking about acting and the value of an actor. And he referred to actors as unicorns because, it's such a hard thing to do and it's such a hard skill that it's hard to find someone who can actually pull that off. I guess it is true. I mean, someone who can inhabit a character, someone who can be that relaxed in front of a bunch of people, which is not easy, and do all those other skills. That's not easy. That's got to be a hard ass job.
It is. It's extremely difficult because I mean, actors are constantly auditioning, and even when they're not auditioning, they have to do something related to the art. Because there are moments where it's completely dead and you don't get auditions for months, and you sit there like, what am I doing? I have to do something,
Yeah.
So you got to figure it out, but it's something that you constantly need to be evolving, and it's something you always need to prove you can do, which is it's annoying, but it's necessary. Like, auditioning is, I don't know one person that's like, oh my God, I love auditioning. I've never met anyone who's said that before.
Yeah, probably never will.
Never will. I don't, even A-list actors are like, oh, auditioning is the worst part. It's like, I agree.
So, you recently have done, I guess it's called dub work for a great TV show called All of Us Are Dead. So how did you get involved with the project? And also, what were you told about the project prior to starting?
Right. So it was with a company called Horseless Cowboy, and I've worked with them on a number of dubbing films already. My first one was in 2019, and my agent at the time, when she told me I booked it, she's like, it's great because they're someone that'll always call you back once you just get one. And I was like, oh, all right. You hear that all the time. But she was right. Over the years, they've called me back. I've done, I think, 8 or 9 different projects with them. And one of the most recent ones being All of Us Are Dead. So prior to this, I didn't even know it was a zombie film. The day before, I got an email saying, hey, we want you for a callback. Can you come in? And I was like, sure, when? It's like, oh, tomorrow in Burbank. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll be there. Cool. And, Burbank's an hour and a half away from me. You get there for 10 minutes and then you go home in traffic. It was funny because the callback, they just put random clips side by side. So the character that I was auditioning for, Lee Su-Hyeok, it went from like him being a badass to him screaming and running to him talking to this girl, and then him being like nervous that he's talking to a girl, and it was all just da 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 da. So it was really weird. And the director, I've worked with her before. She told me, she was like, "It's gonna look weird." I'm like, "Okay," and I didn't realize how weird it would look because it didn't make any sense. But I did the best I could. Yeah.
So for our listeners, can you give us a little bit of information about what All of Us Are Dead is about?
So, from what I remember, it's been a while since I watched the show, and it's definitely been a while since I dubbed it. It is about a zombie outbreak that happens directly into a school, and it's caused by obviously a faculty member. And from there, it's chaotic, and you learn about the relationships of each character, which I think makes that show so unique. Is that they're all just kids, they're high school kids, and they're all trying to deal with this crazy phenomenon that's happening in their school. And then you've got these like other zombies that aren't zombies, but they're still human at the same time. And I mean, from what I remember, that's the gist of the show. It's them going through what they would do and how it ends up being resolved. But I'm hoping there's a season 2. Really hoping there's a season 2.
Yeah, me and my wife are also hoping there's a season 2 because it's such a good show. It is so smart, and it actually became quite a phenomenon. I mean, it's a lot of people are talking about it, a lot of people like it, a lot of Facebook groups dedicated to All of Us Are Dead. Yeah. And it is so well done and so entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
But it must be difficult from your perspective to actually do it, because I mean, first off, how much of the character were they telling you about prior to taking the role? I mean, did they give you background? Did they give you anything to start with?
They gave me a little bit. So all it said, a little bit meaning little to nothing. Basically all it said was, he was a former bully who doesn't like wearing socks.
That's an odd addition.
Yeah.
How do you perform not wearing socks? I mean, how do you perform that?
Exactly. I was like, okay, all right. And they mention it in the show. He's like, oh my God, feet stink, yeah. And I was just like, okay, I don't know why that's needed information. It happens like twice in the show. But at the same time, it's like that is a character trait. That's something he never wears socks throughout the whole show, which is kind of nasty in a zombie apocalypse. But that was it. That was all I got. Nothing else. Just former bully who's no longer a bully, and he doesn't like wearing the socks. It's like, okay, I guess I'll roll with that.
I think that's one of the coolest things about the TV show, and I think I interpreted it correctly, but I might be wrong, but whatever, is that a lot of the people who are alive, at least for the kids in the high school, are former bullies, and now they're sort of bullied or being chased and fearing the fear of these zombies who are going after them. And I think, it's nice to come up for the world of the bullies, and hopefully they learn, they're learning something along the way. But I kind of like that as an interesting detail to focus on the TV show.
Yeah. It's crazy because they have some of the characters that are bullies. They never actually learn. They just get worse. And I think the whole point is like, okay, now they're stronger, they're harder to kill, and what it does is just amplifies what's already there. So if you're bad already, you're gonna be even worse when you have power.
Yeah.
And if you're good, you're gonna be even better with that power. But it's like a more of controlling it, which I thought was an interesting concept in the show. They had so many different elements into it, and I loved every single one of them. Like when I was dubbing it, we'd only have 4-hour sessions. That was the max we could do. And we wouldn't get that far in 4 hours because there's so much screaming and crying and running. My character fights a lot. So a lot of it was just doing that for 4 hours. And then we get to a story moment and then be like, all right, your time's up. And I'm like, why? Can we just, I want to know what happens, but I have to wait. Right. It was cool, but I missed a lot of the story because we only dub our characters. Yeah. But luckily my character's in a lot of important scenes, and I got the gist of it. And then I watched the actual show. I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Well, my wife was like, please don't kill him. Please don't kill him. He's a good character. Don't kill him. So Yeah, so when you're playing when you're dubbing a voice anyway for an actor that's on screen,
Mhm.
obviously that actor you have to match what they're doing, even though you may not necessarily agree with where he's going with the character. And
Yes.
you got to speak in a way at the speed that that character is speaking, so you can dub it properly.
Hmm.
How much does that throw you off your game? Trying to not only act, but act somebody else's acting, and at their speed of acting.
Yeah, I've had a couple where the actor from Korea would just be deadpan. Nothing would move. His mouth would barely move. And he was just like, hey, and for a whole sentence. And I was just sitting there like, okay, so I'll just say it. That's what he's doing. He's just like, it's like, hey, what are you doing? Like that's what he's doing.
Right, right.
And then the director would be like, no, you gotta put more energy into it. I'm like, but he's not even moving his face. It just doesn't make sense. But obviously, I'm not gonna argue.
Right,
So
right,
I
right.
I do that, and they're like, perfect, great. I was like, wow, that's not gonna look good. And I think that's the problem with being a dubbing actor is that you are constantly hearing your own voice, and when that tone and the pitch is wrong and you deliver it really bad, you know it. But they're like, oh, it's good. It's like, no, it wasn't. It is tough. It was hard, especially in All of Us Are Dead, because we have to match their mouth. We call them flaps.
Hmm.
We have to match that. And the Korean to English translation isn't perfect. It's definitely hard.
Hmm.
So going through it, we get a rough translation, and the director would be like, it doesn't really work. Let's add some more words or take out a syllable, and that's kind of how we have to go about
Hmm.
it. And sometimes it can take hours because like there's just so many because they have maybe like 5 or 6 syllables for the word like hi, and we're just like, okay, we got to say like hello, how are you in English, but for them they're just saying hey. It's, so that's why sometimes the dubbing sounds a little off.
Yeah.
Because when you hear it, you're like, well, and then you see the subtitles, and you're like, that doesn't match. It's like it's not supposed to. It's not going to be perfect.
I mean, it's funny because having to do stuff like that and change the dialogue the way you have to do must also, on some level, change the character. As you said, if the guy is not emoting a lot, but you have to emote, well, you're
Hmm.
changing the character a little bit by just doing that. I mean, how does that allow you to make the character more of yours, or does that affect you, not been, or make it more restrictive?
It's a little bit of both. So there are times where it's very restrictive. I think the most freedom we get is when they're running and breathing heavy and punching stuff, or like they're doing movement. That's the most freedom we get. But when it's a close up and we see their face, we have to try our best to match that. But then there are moments when, say, they're screaming at someone or just they're super angry, and the character doesn't look as angry as they should sound. So from there, it's our job to push past it, and then the director will be like, "Cool, let's go a little bit lower." Like, okay, great, because now you know how high, how far you can go, and now you just tone it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and it's just something you kind of learn along the way. It's hard. It is difficult, but it is super enjoyable. Um, because you end up just sitting there thinking like, wow, this is my job for the day. I'm just screaming into a mic for hours. Like, can't complain.
Mm. I think another great thing about a TV show like All of Us Are Dead, which is South Korean, I believe is where it's from,
Mhm. Yeah.
is that it gives you as a viewer a sense of universality. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously I'm probably never gonna go to South Korea, probably because I can never afford to make that travel. But there's
Yeah.
certain elements of the story of being that it's based in a high school that, as someone who also went to high school, I can go, oh yeah, I can recognize that. That
Hmm.
sounds like something that I experienced. And I think that's
Yeah.
so great about a show like that is that it gives everyone a sense of, yeah, maybe they're this many hundreds of miles away, but the culture is pretty much it's similar. I mean, it's high school, it's bullies, it's being bullied, it's the teachers, all that, and I think that's a fantastic thing for people.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know.
definitely. Yeah, it's definitely relatable.
Now, did you ever get to meet the initial actor who played the character?
For All of Us Are Dead?
Yeah.
No, I never did. That's kind of the downside to it, is that we never ever have contact with these characters because they've already finished, or these actors who play the characters, because they've already finished filming this months ago, and we're dubbing it a month before it's set to release. So it's already been edited and color graded, and it's in post production for a couple months already. Sometimes there's little things I need to fix here and there, but for the most part, it's already been done. I wish though, it'd be really cool because I know how popular Korean dramas are, or Korean shows in general. I know how popular they're getting, and it's insane. Because when I started, I was just like, this is just something cool to do. I'm glad I get to be a part of it. And then all of a sudden, after Squid Games,
Yep.
And then All of Us Are Dead ended up becoming super popular. It's just blown up, and it's insane. I mean, I'm here doing an interview now. Like I never thought that would happen in a million years.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the cool things about, I guess, recent TV trends is that something like because usually, obviously, Americans tend to watch American television. That's kind of their obsession, and
Mhm.
shows that were dubbed often maybe it wouldn't even be watched by American audiences because they don't sit through that stuff. But now, with after Squid Game and now all of us are dead, it opens up a huge window for all these other shows from all these other countries that people
Yeah.
apparently will watch if it's good enough, and it was.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think even Disney Plus is getting into the dubbing.
Really?
Yeah. There's one show, I think it's called Snowdrop. I saw it on Disney Plus. It released recently,
Yeah.
and it's a Korean, I think Korean or Japanese. I didn't quite see, but yeah, it's an Asian show that's dubbed on Disney Plus. And I have a friend who's dubbing Disney Plus shows now, and I was like, really? It's like, yeah, they're going into the Korean dramas now. I was like, okay, I didn't see that coming.
So, when did you first find out that the show All of Us Are Dead was going to be a phenomenon? Like, when did you first notice that? Oh shit, everyone's talking about this show.
Yeah, so it was funny because a director I worked with on my last day, oh no, on a different, on a movie, I dubbed another Korean movie. We talked after, and he's like, "Oh, you did All of Us Are Dead," and I was like, "Yeah." And he did it too. He directed I think an episode or two, and he said, "I think that show is gonna blow up." I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's just so much into it that's so good." And me just being tired from screaming for hours on end, I was like a little skeptical because these are things that you would love to happen, but it's so rare that they do. So I was like, I mean, that'd be great. Who knows, right? And then the day it released, I was like, oh, it's out, cool. And then a couple days later, I noticed like still number one. And then I started getting tagged more on Instagram for the show. I was like, okay, this is something. And then all of a sudden, my managers contacted me. He's like, are you famous all of a sudden? Like, what's going on? I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, why are you getting so many interview offers? I was like, what are you talking about? It's like, did you do something? I was like, I mean, I did the dubbing thing that did really well. I did Bullet Train, that's coming out sometime soon. And he's like, oh, well, good job. I'm like, yeah, I mean, that was just kind of when it started, and um, friends that have worked on the show, they contacted me. They're like, yo, it's blowing up. Because I don't really like pay attention to that. Like once I do a project, I kind of forget about it until something does happen,
Yeah.
just for my mental state. But yeah, it was so random, and I felt super happy because I was just like, no way, really? this can't be. Because Squid Games did super well, and Horseless Cowboy I think also did Squid Games. They dubbed Squid Games, and now this show is second to Squid Games, but that's still pretty cool. Yeah, it was just probably a couple days after this when things started going.
Wow, they might be doing some damn good dubbing. They did Squid Games. They're doing All of Us Are Dead. They're on a hell of a roll.
They are. They do so much work, and it's not just Asian dramas. They do, I think, Swedish and all these other countries as well. I noticed, but it's just crazy how much they do.
Now, I assume the rumors of a second season they have to be pretty prevalent right now. I mean, because you're kind of as one of the voice actors, I mean, you're involved. Or do they get the whispers coming towards you? I mean, are you hearing things, or are they just? I mean, is it filmed already in Korea, and now we're just waiting to see if the American is going to do a second season?
So we're in the dark as much as anyone else. We see the rumors too. I've seen the rumors. I've seen articles that say like, "Oh, what season 2 of this would bring?" But who knows? We have no idea. I've done other shows that have said the exact same thing. I've seen the same articles like when season 2 might come out of this, and it's like, well, it never did because it got canceled. So we have no idea. Hoping there's a season 2. That'd be great.
I'm hoping there's a season 2 as well, because you're going to be on the show talking about that as well. I hope in the future.
Yeah.
Well, you're also in the upcoming movie Bullet Train. Can you kind of tell listeners a little bit about what Bullet Train is all about?
So, from my understanding, it's a couple of assassins trying to get a briefcase. From what I saw in the trailer, it's an action comedy, and I didn't know it was an action comedy. I was on set for like 2 or 3 months off and on. Had no idea, but I know it's about a couple of assassins, and they all have a common goal. But at the same time, they don't know that, so they clash together. From my understanding of it.
So, can you tell our listeners a little bit about your character, the one that you play in the movie, and also what your experience was like on the film?
Yeah, so I started off just as a background actor because it was the end of 2020. The pandemic was in full swing, but it started to slow down because what is it? It just Hollywood started to open up, I guess. And the first day on the set was at Sony Studios, and it was insane because it was the biggest set that they were filming at the time of the pandemic. There was probably about 80 or 100 people just in the waiting room, and the waiting room was in the parking lot because that was the only place they could put people. And they were huge on social distancing and just keeping away from each other, and it was difficult for everyone, especially because you don't really know the rules exactly. But it was a tough first day. And then eventually, as we got along, I ended up being I'm still one of the passengers on the train. The trains were really cool, and I can't say too much about that because it hasn't come out yet. But I'm hoping I'm still in there because you never know what gets cut out, what stays in. But I mean, the set itself was amazing. Like I remember seeing Brad Pitt for the first time and be like, "Is that Brad Pitt?" Because he has like 5 or 6 doubles, and I had no idea. I was looking at him, I was like, "It looks like him. Doesn't sound like him though." Because the guy had very, very perfect posture. And I was like, I don't think that's him. And then you heard his voice and you're like, oh, that's definitely not him. And then somebody else walks in and then you hear him talking, you're like, oh, okay, that's him. That's Brad Pitt. Which was cool. That was really cool. There's so many amazing actors that I've shared scenes with, even just walking behind him and whatnot. And so many that I've gotten a chance to just say like hi to and then walk away. I mean, it was an insane experience for me, especially since I was doing um another dubbing at the time. So it's like I would be over there filming that, and then I would be doing the dubbing for another show at the time. It was a lot, especially at the end of 2020.
I mean, like you said, there's Brad Pitt, Zazie Beetz, Sandra Bullock's in the movie. That's
Yeah.
once again, this is a hell of a cast. I mean, and there's others I didn't even type out. I don't know, write down on my notes because it's pretty good ones right off the bat. What was the experience? Were they approachable? Were they kind of like on the set, do their lines and got off?
So a couple of them were, um, especially the veteran actors, the ones that have been doing it for their whole life, pretty much. They would do the lines, ask the director, "Was it good? All right, cool," and then they would just head off. Um, that was a couple of them, but I know from my experience, I was mostly on the set with like Aaron Taylor Johnson and Brian Tyree Henry, and I mean, both of them were just great. Like Brian Tyree Henry is such a character, and I'm so glad he's just in a bunch of other stuff. He was in Eternals, and he's just in a bunch of things now. And my God, he was funny. He's just a hilarious dude. And there were a couple of them that were like they kept to themselves. They were focused on they were just in character. They were focused, especially towards the end when they had three different film crews doing things in different train cars. They were like, "Oh, we got to get this going." But for the most part, like uh, we respected, at least me, like I respected their space because it is not my place to just start up a conversation with somebody who's got to stay focused and be in the moment and be in the scene. But Hiroyuki Sanada, he just, I don't know, there's stuff I've heard about him, but they're wrong. I mean, he's such a nice dude. Like, he turned around, he's like, I was like, "Hey," and like that was it. And I was like, that was just such a cool experience from a veteran actor like that.
Yeah.
Something as small as that, like it still makes an impression on somebody with a smaller part. Yeah, I mean that's just kind of how it was. Like I respected all of their time and their space, and I didn't want to intrude on theirs, so I just let them be. And that's kind of what you're supposed to do. You're not, and that's what I mean by the business side of it. As an actor, is unless you are directly working with them and you have talks between them, you shouldn't bother them because, I mean, this is a multi-million-dollar set, and if they get upset or they complain, who knows what could happen? We don't know.
Yeah.
We respect their space and we respect their time because they're still people, and at the end of the day, it's like they have a job to do, especially when they're in hair and makeup. They're running over lines. We can't just be like, "Hey, I'll take a picture with you." That's just not professional. Because casting hires you as an actor too,
Yeah.
which means you are on the same set as them, which means they treat you like you're professional and you treat them like they're professionals, not like they're celebrities or anything like that.
Well,
I think
was it tempting though to like slide over a piece of paper and a pen, like, "Here you go," if you just wanted to sign a paper?
It's so tempting not to just take out your phone and be like, "Got a picture of them." Yes. It's so tempting to do that, but like I said, you got to remain professional.
Yeah.
You're there to. It's not a time to just gawk over them and just that's it. They're people like us. They're just doing their job and they're having fun doing it. And I mean, they're really having fun with it. Like I said, Brian Tyree Henry, like most fun. Just when you hear him, it's like, okay, it's a pretty chill set.
Yeah. So when you're acting with people, like I said, with Brad Pitt, Zazie Beetz, Sandra Bullock, Aaron Taylor, all these huge names, does it increase the pressure on you to perform better, or do they help enhance each other's and yours performance? How does that interact with you as an actor?
It's a little bit of both. It's extremely nerve-wracking because you have this veteran actor standing next to you and you have to do something, but you're sitting there like, wow, you in the flesh. Amazing. Oh yeah. You got to get back into it. But at the same time, it enhances your performance too, because you get to watch them and you study them and you see their movements and you see you hear the way they deliver their lines and the little facial expressions they do. And you see what makes them because they put so much of themselves into the characters they play. And you can see that. And I think that's what makes acting so amazing and authentic, is because a lot of the characters you see, they're just unlocking a different part of them and putting it into here. And seeing that in the flesh, it was insane. Like, especially Aaron Taylor Johnson. I remember watching him in Nocturnal Animals. I don't know if you've seen that, but he is something else in that movie. And I didn't even know he was in the movie. But when I saw him, I was like, wait. And he was amazing in that. Yeah. And I was like, that is crazy that he can play this insane character. And then he comes into and does this action comedy, and he's funny. And I remember he did Kick-Ass. That's where I first saw him. And he was great in Kick-Ass. And now he's Kraven the Hunter for Sony. But watching him get into his element, and I did do a scene with him. No lines, just a little back and forth into the train, but just watching him do the movements, even something as simple as just walking. It was Aaron Taylor Johnson. It wasn't him playing like, oh, I'm a secret agent. It was him going into the psyche of this character and like him just doing it. And it was cool, and it looked really, really cool and natural. And I was just like, dang, I can do that. And then you try it and you're like, whew, maybe not. That's weird. It's so weird. But for them, it's so natural. And I think that was the best part. And that's why I always say, like, set experience is the best teacher you can have. If you really, really pay attention, you can learn a lot.
So, so directing the movie is David Leitch. Am I close? Leitch.
Yeah.
All right. I was in the ballpark a little bit. I was getting there.
You were close.
He directed Deadpool 2 and also the John Wick movies. What was he like to work with, and how does he help the actors do their jobs better?
So I know he's worked with Brad Pitt, because Brad Pitt had a little cameo in Deadpool 2, but I'm pretty sure him and Brad Pitt have worked together on multiple films. To be honest, at first I had no idea what David Leitch looked like. Like, I was on set for 3 months, 2 or 3 months, and I had no idea if I ever saw him or not. And I see this guy in the back, and I was like, is that? I don't know. But then, Brad Pitt was like, is that good, David? I was like, oh, okay. That's what he looked like. So I had no idea. Because his IMDb picture, and then him there, it's like his hair is all shaggy. Like I said, it was during the pandemic. Like, salons weren't even open. You couldn't get a haircut anywhere.
Yeah.
But he has a lot of trust for his actors, and he'll give very, very simple directions. And watching it unfold it's crazy. Just like the little things he'll say. I can't hear him because I'm so far away, but they'll come back. They'll say the same lines, but with a different intention. And you're like, something happened. And the thing also I love about David Leitch is that he uses basically uses his friends for every production. Everyone on set, they've worked with him on multiple films, and everyone's just so nice. Like, no matter who or what you are on set, they all treat you with respect, like you're a person, like you're a professional. And it's cool. It's nice to have that in a set like that. It's a very, very friendly and open and welcoming set. Especially, like, obviously you can't just walk in, but like when you're there, everyone's just so nice. And he has a very commanding presence. Like, he's there once you know what he looks like. But I didn't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never talked to him. Like I said, for me, it's just respect his time, respect mine. They're on a deadline. I'm not. So you got to stay in your lane.
So when is Bullet Train coming out? Do you know?
In July.
July.
Yes, I'm not sure the exact date, but I know it's in July of this year. They just released the trailer, and it looks great. Like, I definitely want to see it.
It does look really good. I mean, you can't argue with who's involved. I mean, once again, John Wick movies are classic action movies. Deadpool 2 is wonderful. Then you got, obviously, the actors are fantastic in the movie. It looks really good. I assume that's why it has a July release date, because the best ones come out in June, July, or May, June, July. It's the big ones, when the big movies come out.
Yeah, it's supposed to come out earlier, but I think they needed a little bit more time, so they pushed it back. Which isn't surprising because they've pushed back a lot of films. Recently.
Yeah, like the Flash movie.
Yeah, every DC movie is just pushed back a couple months, even a year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's coming out in July for sure, hopefully. And I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks really cool. So what are you working on next?
So right now, I'm doing an Amazon series called Expats. I think I'm filming this week. I haven't gotten any confirmation yet, but that's what I'll be on. And then just a couple short films that I've written that I'm hoping to do over the next couple months.
Oh, very cool. You're a writer as well, huh? I did not know that.
Yeah. I write my own scripts because, like I said, when I was younger, it's hard to get casted as an Asian dude. And especially now, it's still a little tough for me, even though it's becoming more and more. Well, I wouldn't say mainstream, but it's definitely getting more recognition. But it's still tough because there's so much competition for somebody that's my age range and my look and my skill set. But yeah, I try to produce my own stuff. If Hollywood won't cast me, I'll just cast myself. That's kind of the mindset as an actor you should do, is just make your own stuff, even if you only have your phone and a rinky-dinky mic. Like, just do it.
That's awesome. Yeah. So when those movies are ready, I hope you come back on the show to share them, because I would love to see these the short films as well.
Yeah, of course.
And when All Officers Are Dead, it comes out season 2, you got to come on and talk about that as well.
Yes, definitely.
Well, Mr. Keilan, it was a great pleasure to talk with you. You're awesome. And like I said, what you did with All Officers Are Dead was fantastic. And I look forward to seeing these next projects from you.
Great. Thank you so much. You too. Take care.